Right then, welcome back to 40k Mondays. I have done in the past a video on orcs and their physiology, but today what I wanted to do is break down their potential origin and discuss their history up until a point. So the orcs in the 40k universe are not the average orcs you get in general fantasy universes. However, they are regarded or were a created race, much like most orcs. The orcs in the 40k universe are a biologically engineered species, created more than 60 million Terran years ago. The exact point of their origin is not 100% clear, however we can say it was more than 60 million Terran years ago. They were originally created as a warrior race, and their initial name was the Krork, which again over time, language and structure breaks down, and they became known as orcs. They are said to be created by a long-vanished reptilian alien species known as the Old Ones. However, again, 100% this is not overly confirmed, but it is thought that these Old Ones are the ones which created them. The orcs themselves refer to the Old Ones as the Brain Boys, again referencing their limited intellect and the fact that they were created by someone incredibly intelligent. The orcs initially were created by the Brain Boys to fight the Necrons and their masters in the great interstellar conflict called the War in Heaven. This shattered the galactic civilization of the Old Ones that existed prior to the rise of the Eldar. So of course the orcs themselves are genetically engineered to be muscular, aggressive, and not smart. They need to be able to follow orders with very little friction between their masters. They need to just do as they are told. They are built for battle. Their technology itself is maintained by a caste known as the Odd Boys. This is a section within the orc army. They themselves possess genetically implanted dispositions and technical knowledge which grant them the unusual skill of actually being able to maintain and develop technology. The skill itself is an unconscious one, and it is preserved through supposedly genetic memories hardwired into the Odd Boys' DNA by the Old Ones millions of years ago. Of course, again, the Odd Boys are not supposed to know fully or understand or even comprehend the things which they are doing, because much like the normal orc, the Old Ones subdued their intellect. So essentially everything that they create or they maintain or anything to do with their technology, it is purely instinctive. The orcs themselves lack individual psychic power. They were denied the ability by the Old Ones, again probably in an effort to keep their intelligence down and make them more of a subdued race to follow their orders. However, they do have a sort of collaborative, collective psychic ability, meaning that if enough orcs believe something is true, then it will actually become so, and it's brought into power by their combined psychic abilities. An example of this is any orc weapons or any of their technology. It works simply because they believe it to work. And much like their rockets, if they paint it yellow, they believe it will create bigger explosions, simply because the vast majority of the orcs believe that it will happen. This creates a very interesting conversation with regards to their technology, whether it should work, whether it shouldn't, and how they could be as a species if they were able to understand and develop themselves properly as a culture as well. But unfortunately that will more than likely never be known because of their incredibly dumbed down intelligence. So where do the orcs come into play within the Warhammer 40k universe? Well, when the Emperor of Mankind revealed himself to humanity following the long night of the Age of Strife in the middle of the 30th millennium, he shaped a war-torn terror into a single unified world for the first time in history. Once he had conquered Terra, he began to take his crusade to the stars and push forwards into any planet where mankind had settled, but also unknown planets along with it. Having created the foundations of the Imperium of Man, he launched his massive armies out into the galaxy, seeking to bring, of course, all of human settled space back under his unified singular control and into his empire. During these early conquests, many Imperial expeditionary fleets encountered the Greenskin menace, Greenskins being the orcs. Within the Telon Reach was an orc empire so large that it rivaled one centered on Yulinar. And at its heart was the scrap world of Goro. The orc tech caste, the Mech Boys, dominated the Orcs of Goro and had made the world their own. The dominant tech caste on Goro seemed to be fascinated by a form of plasma technology never encountered before or since, capable of generating destructive yields of terrifying potency. These particular plasma weapons had done an extreme amount of damage and also blunted the Great Crusade's advance across the Telon Reach. The Emperor himself decreed that Goro must be destroyed. After this, a 1,000-strong fleet of warships dropped out of the warp above Goro, and it was the Emperor himself who gave the order to begin the assault. Horus, the famed Primarch of the Lunar Wolf Space Marine Legion, and the ever-dutiful and favoured son, stood at the Emperor's side and watched as tens of thousands of assault craft spread out from the fleet. The Lunar Wolves themselves teleported into the scrap layers beneath the planet's surface. They did this because the planet had a high resistance to orbital bombardment, and thus they had to hollow out Goro from within. In the vanguard was the Emperor himself, and of course by his side was his ever-dutiful son Horus, and along with them a guard of black-armoured Justaerian Terminators from the Lunar Wolves' first company, and they even had some golden-clad warriors along with them. As the Space Marines attacked, the Orc resistance they faced was near overwhelming. The Orcs of Goro were huge, and they had augmented themselves with scavenged bionics. Some even stood taller than dreadnoughts themselves, and their weaponry burned through Astartes' power armour easily. At the height of the battle, the fury of the Orcs split the Emperor from his guards. Alone, he slew hundreds of them until a blast from an Orc plasma weapon weakened his defences, and one of the Orc leaders seized him. The Orc strength was so great that it took hold of the Emperor and buckled his golden armour. As the creature went to throttle the Emperor of Mankind, Horus stormed through the press of battle and cut the Orc's arm from its body with a single blow. Together, the Emperor of Mankind and his ever-dutiful son led their forces deeper into the vast sphere of scrap until they reached the centre of Goro. The Emperor worked to collapse the self-sustaining plasma sphere that powered much of the world's scavenged Orc technology, and that contained a warp-fold envelope, so that Goro would implode into the warp. The Emperor proved successful, and without its power source, the scrap world collapsed in on itself. A hollow skin of rusted metal around an empty void was all that remained to mark the death of the great Orc Empire of Goro. So as you can see, the Orcs themselves, although subdued in intellect, they are far from a race to be trifled with. Even an Orc managed to get this close to murdering the Emperor of Mankind. So as I said, although they have a subdued intellect, they are a species which really should have your respect. But of course, the Imperium moved forward. The Yulinar Crusade was a vast imperial assault on the Orc Empire of the Overlord Urlak. The capital world of this empire and the site of the final assault lay in the Yulinar system of the Yulinar sector, which had long been under the dominion of Urak's greenskin pocket empire. The crusade included the deployment of 100,000 space marines, 8 million Imperial Army troops, and thousands of Imperial starships and their support personnel. It would seem that the assault on Goro had had an effect on the Emperor of Mankind, and he was pulling no punches in the assault on Yulinar. The Lunar Wolves themselves spearheaded the assault into the heart of Urlak's fortress palace. During the height of the assault, Horus and a retinue of Lunar Wolves Terminators from the elite First Company came face to face with the massive Orc warlord and a retinue of 40 Orc knobs. Horus charged into the knobs, hacking them apart with his lightning claws until he finally faced the Orc overlord himself. Urlak was simply no match for the Primarch's skill and unnatural power. First crippling his enemy, Horus hefted Urlak's broken body out onto the roof of the Greenskins' palace and threw it, screaming, from the battlements to fall far below amongst the horde of Orcs still assaulting the lower levels. Seeing their leader defeated sent a panic through the Greenskin forces, which started to fall back from the Terminators. But of course, the fleeing mobs found they had nowhere to run, as the outer walls had been breached by the attacking Lunar Wolves, and the day turned into a slaughter. In the Overlord's chamber, Horus found every Orc and Terminator dead, apart from the gore-drenched first captain of the First Company, Ezekiel Abaddon, who was surrounded by crushed and broken Orc bodies. The Yulinar Crusade marked the high point of the Great Crusade's vast effort to reunite the scattered colony worlds of humanity. The Orks of Yulinar represented the largest concentration of Orks ever defeated by the military forces of the Imperium of Man, before the Third War for Armageddon began during the late 41st millennium. So as you can see, even the Imperium of Mankind does not take the Orks lightly. As I said, even though they were created by the Old Ones, they are something not to be trifled with. Their intellect does not negate their vast power. And if you were to overlook that fact in battle, the Orks would overrun and destroy you. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this return to 40k Mondays. I'm attempting to make these videos a little bit longer and also a little bit more in depth. So as I get back into making these videos, I hope you enjoy them, give them a big thumbs up and share them. I know they're not particularly for everyone. However, I have enjoyed making them and also researching into the 40k universe and learning the lore myself. So anyway, and as always, let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section on the Orks and especially their history. But also I want to pose a question. Do you believe if the Orks were somehow gaining intelligence, what do you think they would truly become? Because, as I said before, their technology only works because they believe it to, which gives them a true power if they had the intellect to wield it. As always guys, I've been Mr. H. Until next time, I'll catch you in the comment section.